That's all right. I don't appreciate it's quite complicated. This. I'll let Hassan Ali Imam come in, who is way more knowledgeable than me. Over to you, Hassan Ali Imam.
Hi, assalamu alaikum, shalom, and peace be with all of you. And no, I'm not knowledgeable at all, so don't worry. Good to see you all. I missed the last half an hour. I did catch the first 2 hours, or 3 hours actually. So basically, what I would like to address, now I do need to go because there is an iftar party I need to go to later on. And by the way, Ramadan Mubarak to those who are fasting. Happy Ash Wednesday to our Christian brothers and sisters a couple of days ago. So those two, that day coincided, the first day of Ramadan and Ash Wednesday. So the Ramadan marking 30 days of fasting and Ash Wednesday marking the 40 days of Lent. It's first time in a long time. So I think it's a symbol of Christian Muslim unity and other religions as well, and also Happy New Year, Chinese New Year. Okay, so basically I'd like to address the cracks within the conservative movement. That's the theme. Number one is diversity has been a success. That's what I'd like to mention. Number two, talk about illegal immigration. Number three, how the challenges associated with illegal asylum seekers could have been prevented 20 years ago. Number four, how issues around legal migration and the challenges they present could have been solved 20 years ago. And this tussle between Restore Britain with their anti-Islam agenda and reform and the way forward. So I'll try and keep it short, if that's okay. Yeah, so diversity, I would say, has been a success. So in the various corporations I've worked in, I've always looked after diversity and inclusion sessions. I've really advocated for that. Is getting to know other people, other cultures and religions, and respecting each other. Now, the reason why I say diversity is a success is a response to Suella Braverman, who, when she was a Conservative cabinet minister, she said that multiculturalism has been a failure. Well, Suella Braverman herself is of ethnic origin from Mauritius and also Kenyan. She's married to a Jew, and she was part of a cabinet post which had the most diverse cabinet in British political history under Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. So multiculturalism has been a resounding success. And if Kevin Badenoch, who I am supporting, if she does become our next Prime Minister, you know, this is multiculturalism at its finest. So that's my answer to Suella Braverman and those who seek to condemn diversity, etc. Number two is illegal immigration. Now, if illegal immigrants were deported, I don't think there'll be much disagreement there. I mean, there is no need to come to the UK illegally when there is a legal asylum process that they can actually come through. Having a policy that prevents illegal migration here, I mean, it's been quite easy, you know, the last few decades. But having a policy to prevent illegal immigration will crack the gangs, the criminal gangs that are forcing those illegal migrants to come through the boats. It's going to crack that, and no one is actually addressing those criminal gangs. And also, a longer-term policy would be to ensure that foreign policy does address stabilization in other countries. So a large part of why we see a lot of migrants coming from Syria, for example, Afghanistan, is because of the destabilization that's happened. And because Britain is a very soft touch, that's why they're able to come here. So a long-term foreign policy that leads to stability should be the order of the day. Number three, how the challenges associated with the illegal asylum seekers could have been prevented 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, in 2005, I did stand for Parliament. And at that time, Michael Howard was our leader. Now, at that time, the Conservative Party proposed two ideas. One was that any asylum seeker should be housed in a reception centre away from communities. They get their rights, you know, the education, healthcare, etc., away from the community. Now, those who were against that policy named or renamed the reception centres as detention centres. Okay, so you can see the very pejorative term that was used. And also what was suggested was that in terms of legal migration, because there is some migration that is needed, you want good quality migrants coming to Britain, adding value. His suggestion was, Michael Howard, that Parliament should decide every single year how many migrants to allow, right? Parliament decides. In other words, this is a cross-party initiative, which means the people would decide through their members of Parliament on a yearly basis what is needed. So that could have been done. And all this debate we're having now about criminal gangs raping, unfortunately, white women, or the concern amongst some communities in the village areas, such as Crowborough, for example, where a military site is being used to house illegal asylum seekers who are men mostly, and there's concern from the community about these men being let out into the community, and understandably so. So these could have been prevented 20 years ago. So I hope the Conservatives can actually resurrect that. Number 5, Restore Britain versus Reform. I think it's a complete fracas. It's when I went on GB News a few months ago, I did mention about Reform and Advance UK, and I think Advance UK will probably ally themselves with Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain. They're basically breaking the Conservative vote. That's all that they're doing, these geniuses. So I wouldn't be surprised if Labour did actually come in. But I'm working damn sure that to make sure that Kevin Bannon does become our next Prime Minister. So for me, although I did say I ran 20 years ago, Member of Parliament, I took a step back because my daughter was born and I have family commitments. But now that she has grown up, I have reapplied, so I have to go through the assessment process again. If I do pass, then I'm eligible to stand for Parliament. So it will definitely be the Conservative Party, not Reform. And in terms of Restore, as I finish my points, the key difference between Restore and Reform is the Islam question. Restore Britain does not like the fact that there are Muslims within Reform. So as much as I totally disagree with Leila Cunningham, the mayoral candidate, Zia Yusuf, because they're Muslims and because Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform, has gone to, I think it was Qatar, the UAE, ingratiating himself with the World Economic Forum. There's some concerns now that there's a Muslim takeover of Reform, which there isn't. So the Islam question is a big difference there. So with Restore, you'll be aware there are 2 policies they're going to implement. They're going to ban the burqa, and they're going to ban halal meat, i.e. kosher meat as well. So they want to ban both halal and kosher meat. I would say that is completely unnecessary. They're not being, true Christians by banning the Muslim way of dressing, because the Muslim way of dressing is not too different to the Christian way of dressing, as Britain was, before the 1960s sex revolution. And if you look at the picture of Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, it's not too different to how Muslim women do dress. So when these Christian nationalists say they want to ban the burqa, do they mean the niqab, the face veil? I would understand that, and I'll have some sympathy with that. But if they mean ban the dress that women normally wear, which is the headscarf, or nuns wear, or you see the picture of Mother Mary, if they want to ban that, that is, I would say, very, very un-Christian. So I'd be interested to hear from our brother, unorthodox Christian, what he thinks about that, and halal slaughter as well. And Conor Tomlinson, he has been the brainchild of some of the policy making around these 2 policies for Restore Britain. He said in a different video, this is not a policy of Restore, but this is his own opinion, that he would like to see all of us Muslims deported back to our heritage countries, and then the Britain can check in on us in 200 years' time, which is very, very kind. So I'm very, very wary of Restore Britain. I don't know how popular they are going to be. If they do ally themselves with Ben Habib's Advance UK, they could cause a lot of problems. In any case, I guess my final point is the quality of migrants that should come. earlier on, I think in the first 2 hours, we're discussing about my Pakistani migrants, Bangladeshi migrants. So I'm of Bangladeshi origin. If we, and I said this before in a previous live of Lubna's, and I'll repeat this here, the relative successes of, let's say, India, Pakistan, China, or failures would be reflected in their diaspora abroad. Okay, so if we look at India, it's going to be a superpower very soon. It's got a space mission, nuclear power, economically it's doing very well, militarily it's very, very strong. If you look at the Indian immigrants to the UK, they have contributed a lot. They focused on education. And when I did a search on artificial intelligence, are Indians net contributors or net recipients of benefits in the UK? They are significantly, and that's the word they use, significantly net contributors to the UK. It's understandable because they are a reflection of the success of India. Same with China, net contributors to the UK economy. And they are a reflection of the success of the Chinese economy, a militarily advanced country and economically advanced, probably the next superpower. If we look at our fellow Pakistani brothers and sisters, unfortunately, they are net recipients of benefits when I ask artificial intelligence. Again, this is a reflection of the relative failure of Pakistan, nowhere near to the success that India and China have made. In my country of origin, Bangladesh, unfortunately, we are net recipients of benefits. We should be net contributors. And when I found this out only a few months ago, I was absolutely shocked, because I am aware of the massive investment that went into East London, for example, through regeneration programs over the last 30 years. And that, the level of education is increasing. Bangladeshis are getting into good professions. There are millionaires, businessmen, Bangladeshis, which is really, really good to see. I want to see more. But I was still really surprised to learn that most of the Bangladeshi families in East London are in council housing, which was a shock, because I thought that the prosperity would see itself. And unfortunately, again, this is a reflection of our countries. So you can see how the successes and relative failures of these countries are reflected in the diaspora. And it was very unfortunate. There are 3 Bengali MPs, British MPs of Bangladeshi origin. You would think that, they've been in Parliament for over 2 decades. They would have helped the local Bangladeshi communities prosper, but we haven't seen that happen. And by the way, when I say Bengali MPs helping Bangladeshi communities, any MP, Member of Parliament, should be responsible for all communities, not just one community. Okay, so let me just clear that up. So that's quite surprising. And also, there are a few Pakistani MPs in Parliament. I don't know how many. Again, what have they done to improve the lives of Pakistanis, so that we, all of us, Bangladeshis and Pakistanis, are net contributors to the UK, not net benefit recipients? So that's something that really needs to be worked on. Anyway, as I say, the extreme edge of the right-wing politics in Restore Britain reform, they can have that fracas. I don't really care. But I hope that Conservative Party does actually benefit. And as I say, I do want to see Kemi as our next Prime Minister. So thank you very much indeed. Brother Unorthodox, you want to go? Then I do need to go.
Yeah, of course. Can you hear me okay? Oh, brilliant. I think Lubna's just away. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Always love your takes and whatnot. And I hope you get the position that you're going for. And I think with economics, with contributors, I mean, that's all well and good. But those tend to only come under the microscope for analysis if whereby the society as a whole isn't sort of functioning well, you see. So let's say if you've got a society which comes into the UK which isn't contributing quite so much as another particular one, I think if you just still love Britain and you're not playing your face, if you're not high into criminality, if there's not, I don't want to, grooming gangs, if like nothing's on your scope, as in people looking at you in a negative way, then personally for me, I don't think it sort of matters, because education and opportunity, that can come. It may take 10 years, it might take 20 years, but that can progressively come. But I think the whole matter of banning the burqa. I think it's come from other European countries as well, which are sort of doing it. It's a reaction to something. So
I need to go. If I may, because I know brothers Connor and Shakespeare also are waiting. I just want to respond to what you said. I completely agree with you, brother Christian.
There are in Christianity, they are covering up, right?
Yes,
Isn't it right?
It's in many religions. I guess what brother Christian was trying to say is that because the reason why Muslims are being focused on, even though other religions will have some form of similar covering, is the threat that the extremists pose. Back in the 90s, I was growing up in the 80s, 90s. Women wore the face veil. There was no problem with halal meat. There are Sharia courts in the UK. No problems whatsoever. The turning point, I think, was after 9/11, when extremism came to the fore, and also the British government at the time accommodated extremists that were thrown out of other countries. They wanted to overthrow governments in these other countries, calling them kuffar governments or unbelieving governments, and they had a free reign here in the UK. That perpetuated more extremism, and that's in turn triggered the fear amongst the non-Muslims about the Muslim community, and that is why now they will be focusing on the hijab or the niqab and halal meat when it wasn't an issue, over the last decade. So I think there's a lot of accountability that we should have done more as a community to crack down on extremists really hard, grooming gangs really, really hard. And in answer to a questioner, and I do need to go. In answer to a questioner, what do I think of Dili Hussain? I don't think much of Dili Hussain. He is a fellow Bangladeshi Muslim, but I took a great exception when he had an interview with Blogging Theology, which is a very good podcast with Paul Williams, when he was talking about the Bangladeshi riots that happened over a year ago, and he was praising this new revolution that's happening, ignoring the fact that many people died. They were killed by these revolutionaries, especially those in the previous government, the Awami League. Some of them were killed, they were burnt. And as you know, Hasina had to flee to India. I'm not pro or against Hasina. I'm apolitical when it comes to Bangladeshi politics. But the fact that there were human rights abuses, because they were part of the previous government, that is wrong. That should have been called out. Again, he did not call it out. I also did not like his contribution on Piers Morgan over a year ago when the Palestinian, the October 7th terrorist attacks happened and the ensuing wars. Him and Mohammed Hijab, they should have done better to facilitate peace. What can be done to create peace between Muslims, Jews in Israel and Palestine, so that people's lives are saved and people can actually progress economically in a peaceful future. That did not happen. So I do not see eye to eye with Dili Hussain. And the other podcasters, you got Andrew Gold, you have Konstantin Kissin on trigonometry, Alex Phillips on Talk TV, Jordan Peterson. I've been trying so hard over the last 2 years to have a discussion with them, because I don't think that they've had a Muslim of my sort of dispensation on their show. They've had people, guests who have similar views, so it becomes an echo chamber. And I've been trying really hard to give a different face of Islam, different face of Muslims. At the moment, they think that Muslims are trying to take over, a Sharia takeover, which I don't think is the case.
Can I just say on that point, Hassan, the thing is that even if you're a good apple, which it seems that you are, but if you are literally the only one, or there's a handful within 2 billion, I mean, you can show a different, view, but at the end of the day, unless you've got a majority, it's not going to matter. Can I just play this video quickly? And I don't mean to cut you off. I would like you also, Hassan, to engage with this video. It's very short. And this is, I'm just going to play it, and then you guys can let me know what your thoughts are.
Okay. Because the strategic template on which Islam has operated is when in the minority, act meek and like a victim. but when in the majority, smite at the neck and show no mercy. That's why I drew the earlier analogy with shingles. It takes a tipping point in numbers for some of the things that you're not yet worried about to materialize, right? Okay, because the strategic.
So that's the video. So this is the saying that when Muslims are in the minority, they behave like the victims, but when they are in the majority, then they become problematic. Hassan, Ali, what is your thoughts on that? And then I'll get everyone else's thoughts. And if there's anyone else that'd like to come on stage, please click on the link and come on stage. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Sister Lubna. Yeah, I did watch the whole interview. It was very, very good, actually. I don't see eye to eye with Gad Saad, and he hosts the podcast, The Sad Truth. But that was quite a good interview, actually. He was very tempered. Now, I think his view about when Muslims are in a minority, they'll be like victims until they're in a majority, they'll take over. I think it's parallel to an idea that's going around amongst the extreme right of political thought, which is that there is a taqiyya takeover. So taqiyya means deception, right? So Muslims are doing taqiyya. Even Lubna has been accused of doing taqiyya, pretending that she's against Muslim extremism. So that charge is there. So they're all secret, and then they want to take over, which is not correct at all. So it'll take a while to talk about taqiyya. I'd like to do that on another program. Taqiyya does have restrictions, and you cannot lie your way through and try to take over. When Gad Saad talks about the Quran saying smite them with your necks, that's only talking about warfare, not a secret takeover where you're trying to dominate and then kill unbelievers. That's certainly not the case. But I can't do this justice now because I do have to go. But I'd love to come back and talk about this idea and this fear that people have about Muslims trying to take over. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Cool, thank you. Who was next? Whose turn is it?
Mm-hmm.